This is otherwise state champ Alex Thompson. This is Josh Elwer from the University of Northern Iowa, and you're listening to Potentially Dangerous on IA Wrestle.
Hey! Is this heaven?
No. It's Iowa.
From high school to international wrestling, on the mat and beyond, this is the Potentially Dangerous podcast with the guys from IA Wrestle.
If you're a fighter, you like a fight. If you're an American, you like a fight. If you're an Iowa Hawkeye, you know you're going to get a fight.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes and all your podcast-friendly apps. And follow us on social media platforms at IA Wrestle. Time to strap it up and get to the show.
When the whistle go.
All right, we are back with Ross and Tony. Ross is back. Long hiatus. I was on a long hiatus too, but man, we've been busy. There's been lots of crazy news in college wrestling. We are in the mix of the World Championships right now, which has been a disaster for Greco. But man, great to see your face. Great to hear your voice again, because you left us for like a week.
I was gone over in Europe for a week, but I think it's been like 2 months since I've been on the podcast.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I kind of apologize to our loyal listeners that have been sending us text messages and stuff and Twitter messages, want to know when we're going to be back. Lars and I dropped the podcast last week, and Ross and I are back here, so we're going to get right into things here. Well, let's talk about your trip overseas. You go to Europe, go to Paris the week prior to the World Championships. I mean, were you just like, you're sitting at Paris, were you just kind of like, man, I wish I was here one more week? But I'm guessing the wife probably wouldn't enjoy that a whole lot.
Yeah, we booked our trip. Actually, my brother, he's the one that's all into that trip booking. So he kind of booked our flights to London on a whim. I didn't really look at the dates, and of course it ended up being that we ended up being in Paris like 2 weeks before, Thomas Gilman's going to wrestle. And I remember, that the Hawkeye Wrestling Club had their $200 raffle, and I told my wife, I said, hey, you want to go back to Paris? I'll put in that raffle bid. Maybe we can go back. And she supports wrestling, but I don't think she would have been up for 5 days of wrestling in Paris.
How crazy it would have been if he booked the trip and then you actually are in Paris during that time. I mean, that would have been fate.
I don't know if I would have made it to the stadium. I don't know where it's at. I didn't look it up, but I learned really quickly that not knowing a language, I mean, you go to Mexico, I've been on a lot of Mexican vacations. I kind of speak Spanish half, and you kind of get away with stuff down there. You go to France, where everybody speaks French, and you don't know a lick of French, and I was completely lost. I'm not going to lie to you. So we thought we were pretty smart. My brother and I, we were like, we can get around on the subway. And so we were trying to get back to the big train station to take, it's called the Eurostar, to take that from France back to England. And we got to the right station, but we had no idea where the train was. And we were running around. We were asking workers, like, do you speak English? Do you speak English? And all of them were no. So we're like, do you know where the Eurostar is? And they would just point, and it took us like 20 minutes. We almost missed our train back to England. It was nuts. So I don't know if I can navigate Paris. It was so stressful not knowing the language.
Did you feel like you were going to be on one of those movies with Liam Nielsen? Liam, he's going to come after the people that attack you. And isn't that where that movie took place? I
think you're right. Yeah, it's definitely crazy. And, it's not even like not speaking it, but, when we were riding the subway, I couldn't even understand. Like, I had the words written in front of me when they were reading subway stops, and I couldn't understand what they were saying. So it definitely just felt like I am way out of my element. I was expecting there just to be shady people everywhere. I'm not a big city dude. Cedar Rapids is podunk compared to these cities. That's where I work. So it's just like, yeah, every street corner I was just kind of looking over my shoulder. I just couldn't trust myself. It probably is that Liam Neeson stuff.
Well, in Mexico, it is real touristy, right? And when you actually get on a resort, there's very few people that actually speak Spanish. But if they do, all you really need to know is gracias and uno más, or por cerveza. So that's really all you need to know. And you can tacos, and that's really all you need to know, and you can really get through your trip. So, well, welcome back to the States. Wrestling has been crazy. I mean, you got back. I heard Pat Downey was Pat Downey was officially coming, and it didn't come out a full week till after he said he was going to be on campus. University wasn't for sure if they really wanted it out yet or not, and Andy Hamilton ended up breaking the story. But Pat Downey to the Iowa Hawkeyes. You asked me last year when you broke the news that Downey was kicked off the team, that he was going to be an Iowa Hawkeye, I would have just laughed. I mean, there's no way I thought this was possible. Heck, I mean, almost 2 months ago, I didn't think it was possible, but it's going down. And as somebody that lives out in that area, I mean, have you had a chance to talk to anybody like Iowa fans and really kind of see what they think about? I mean, the Hawkeye report's all over the place. People are like, I'm not spending any money at the Hawkeye Wrestling Club. Some people are like, hey, we need him for points. Let's take him if we can get him.
I think the real world is just as split as the Hawkeye report. I think you'll find people that are they're all in the win now. It's kind of like what you see with the NFL. You're always against some player that domestic abuse until they the Dallas Cowboys sign that defensive end. I can't remember what his name was, but then all of a sudden they get on your team and you're more focused on, hey, what can this guy do for us? Maybe he's paid his dues. I'm sure he's got some plan set up with the team. So you got people like that, and then you have people that are just kind of disgusted at what's going on. I've heard a lot of people say Brands is, he's always on this high horse about being a moral guy, and you bring in a guy like Pat Downey that's just been toxic everywhere he's been. So I think the fan base is completely split. I haven't heard more one way or the other. Have you?
I haven't. I mean, the people that I know that are very competitive are really just saying, hey, if they're gonna, if he can not screw up and not be an idiot, then why not take him? And who cares really about his past? It's about what he does in the next 12 months. Not even 12 months. I mean, what's he do here the next 6 months? You just gotta stay clean and be good and listen to what Tom and Terry do. I mean, they've had people on their team way worse than Pat Downey, but in today's world on social media, we all know about it, so it's a little different. I mean, Dan Gable, you'd be surprised at some of the stories I hear of guys that he's had on the team. Heck, even Tom, some kids on the team that they've had that have ended up being real important to the program. So I think it's a good risk to take. I would be 50-50 on it if I was the head coach, just because of the kids that are in the program, and I think you really have to walk around on eggshells. I kind of consider it like what Nick Mitchell did with Grandview, taking in Andrew Long. He's had some alcohol problems. Obviously, the issues at Penn State. What he was charged with. That's kind of a stink eye on your life. But somebody that says that they can change, I think you take the risk. Didn't pay off for Grandview, obviously, but there's people that take these risks all over the place. But Pat Downey really has grabbed a hold of the whole wrestling community. One of the most popular people, whether you love him or hate him, and that's what I think our sport needs more of. So I think it'll be fun for us to be able to cover it. I don't have any say in whether he should or should not be, but it's sure as hell going to be fun for us.
Yeah, I think Tom. If I had to imagine, I would guess Tom Brands didn't want the news coming out until it absolutely last minute had to. Andy Hamilton kind of broke it there, but it was inevitable. You got Pat Downey tweeting he's on the way. He's taking pictures of the cornfields. He took a picture of the practice room today. It was bound to happen, but you have to just think he, as he's like on the knife's edge, Pat Downey, and it's just like it doesn't take much for him to do something crazy where it's like, yeah, no, we were never gonna bring him on. It was a maybe, but we weren't,
Yep.
So I just gotta imagine like when that happened, he's kind of like, well, I guess we're in now. We're both beat. So like you said, it's gonna be fun to cover. I think both of us at the Open we agreed he's an entertaining character, and like you said, we need more Pat Downeys, to people to talk about. Whether you love him or hate him.
He's one of those guys that you're like, hey, I'm going to need your login and password to your Twitter. So if you say anything after midnight, I'm deleting it, buddy. So, and I've been in that position before. So I know that feeling of, like, what is going to come out of somebody's Twitter account. Right? And it's a very unnerving feeling. Especially when you're just willing to call anybody out, literally anybody out. I mean, from Cale Sanderson to Donald Trump to anybody, he just is willing to call anybody out. So it'll be fun.
I can't. I think it's going to be funny because you got to imagine too that Tom and Terry probably going to be on Twitter a little bit more. Maybe their activity, their tweets, because they got to be checking on Pat Downey. Maybe they're going to be a little bit more active. Maybe we'll see some more tweets. I wouldn't be surprised if all of a sudden you're like, hey, Tom and Terry are doing a little bit more this year. I wonder why they're on Twitter all the time.
Yeah. So that's huge movement out of Iowa City. Again, I mean, I think everything's been real positive. Even with some of the transfers out. I mean, some of the guys, like Jack Wagner going out, Malcolm Rathbun. All really not like daggers to the program because there's going to be lots of people at these weights classes, so I don't think it's like that's too negative. Some news out of transfer news will be, you'll probably already saw this, but Logan Ryan is officially at UNI. That's been he has not been granted a release, so we'll have more information on that on our website if you catch this podcast prior to that being released. But Logan Ryan is going to be a Panther, so I'm excited for him to be up at Cedar Falls. I think he was cutting a ton of weight where he was at Iowa, and where he sits in the lineup right now, I don't think that there's a chance for him to get in the lineup, but he can go up there. He can be with Jack Wagner. He can be with with Jay, and I think they'll be a good fit for him.
Yeah, like you said, there's not really a lot of room. He was cutting a lot of weight to be a 41 out of high school. 49's definitely out of the picture, but we've seen him at 65 this past year, maybe year and a half. Maybe he can make down to 57. Maybe he's kind of got his weight figured out. So I think that'll be interesting because Patton Moore, he's a quality guy, but I don't know if he's locked down the 157 spot. But Bryce Steidert's definitely going to be that anchor at 165, and if he's not redshirting, he's going to be the dude. So it's kind of crazy. I mean, I was in Europe, and I was still checking Twitter. I'm like, Tony Hager's breaking, Jack Wagner's gone, Sam Cook's coming back. Just all this movement with the Iowa program over the last 3 months has been incredible. Guys coming in, guys leaving, and it's just been a flurry of activity.
Yeah, it's been kind of quiet out of Ames, though. They were, Dresser came on, and he's fighting for the recruits and fighting for the recruits to stay on. Gets Shapiro, gets Lara, all like back to back to back. Laid some real groundwork in Iowa, and it's kind of been quiet since Fargo. Did Shapiro commit before Fargo or after Fargo? I'm trying to remember.
I think it was before.
Yeah, so I feel like it's been just real quiet since after Fargo. So don't know if they, kind of, I don't say, blew their load on some of those guys, and they're just kind of waiting for another, transition of kids to come in. But and then they've got Stowe. He's transferring out of Nebraska. And there's a slew of kids that are just getting out of wrestling, actually, that are in from Iowa State. Briar Cochran is going to be done. There's another kid that I believe was from Tama, two-time state champ. The name's passing me by right now, but two-time state champ. He's actually going to be stepping away and just getting back into farming. So there's about 3 or 4 guys just stepping away from wrestling in general from the Iowa State team. and I don't want to discuss those until I guess you see the rosters. They probably don't. Not sure if they want me to, letting people know about that. I guess, but so. Losing a guy like Stowe, though, I mean, you got Gremmel on the team. I mean, is this a big dagger to the program? What are your thoughts on that move?
Stowe, I don't even know if he was, the number fourth guy. They pretty much used Nick Nolting and Alex Silberstein last year when Queon Smith was out. And like you said, Gremmel's coming off red shirt. Sammy Colbray is going to be there at 197, so maybe Marcus Harrington's going to think about moving up to heavyweight. So Stowe was kind of buried. He's going to a Nebraska team that's got quite a few heavyweights. I think the interesting thing about him was he made that transfer, but he did it so late. Nebraska told him that their roster was capped. So he's not even on the Nebraska team either, really. He's kind of training with I think he said he was going to train with Don Bradley, who was also, he was in Ames, so he's kind of got that connection there. But I think the big thing for this offseason, I don't know if you guys talked about it last week, I can't remember. But, they added Jarrett Dagan from Virginia Tech,
yep,
who's going to be right there in the mix with probably Dante Rodriguez at 49. And then Skylar St. John came from Iowa. He's going to have a chance to maybe upgrade 165 for them. So, Dresser kind of, when he had that inaugural press conference saying, like, you might have to be patient, but when you pick up a guy like Dagan, you pick up St. John, just kind of makes you immediately better. It helps, those fans that are going to be itching to be good now that are going to want to see Marcus Coleman and Austin Gomez go this year when they should probably redshirt.
Yeah, I mean, Iowa State's They've got a great incoming class. It'll be interesting to see what they end up doing. I know you've got a preview coming out of Iowa State here soon, kind of what these weight classes look like. Do you think they have? Do you think they'll redshirt these guys, or is there anybody that you think that they could pull?
Austin Gomez, obviously the top end talent from that class. I think he's got a redshirt. I think you got Marcus Simmons and Ian Parker in front of him. That, both guys All-American at University Nationals. Look, Parker, I think, really came along. He's kind of been, I know he was a top 50 recruit maybe, but he's still a little bit of a project where you wanted him to be more, a lot of his credentials were freestyle, and he's really good in freestyle, but his folk style game was a little bit lacking. I think he's come a long way in that. Marcus Simmons obviously is going to be a lot better. When he's not trying to pretty much cut off his leg to make 25, he's going to be pretty strong at 33. So I think Gomez sits. It'll be interesting with Dane Pastano. I mean, if he goes back to 84, maybe Marcus Coleman's a guy you want to turn to at 74. But, if Dane can make 74, I think you roll the dice with Danny Bush, the Iowa Central transfer, and kind of see what you got out of him before putting Coleman out there, fresh off high school.
Yeah, I think I agree. Keeping Gomez, giving him some more time at the college level, I think will be great. Be interesting just to, I think, put some more muscle on him, I guess you could say. I think him and Kanan Storr are going to be solid. Once give them a year there, they'll be in the hunt for some AAs there for sure. So I'm excited to see Kanan Storr, again this year. Now an Iowa State singlet, so lots of things to be excited about for the Iowa State program. And for you that, I know I tweeted out that you can get the War at West Gym singlet here this past Saturday at Humboldt. Turns out they had too much gear, and they're actually going to be auctioning off the War at West Gym singlet signed by Kyvan Gadsden October 12th at the District in Ankeny at the next Cyclone Regional Training Center outing. So we'll have more information on that on our website as that gets closer. Heck, that's a week, that's a day prior to the night of conflict. So we'll be pretty crazy. We'll be running around like our heads cut off. I think that I am going to skip my cousin's rehearsal party or walk through, whatever the hell you call that stuff, and I'm going to come the night of conflict. It'd be too hard for me to miss a night of conflict. I would be a nervous wreck. You know me, I've got like this little itinerary, and I don't know. I like that event to start, and once it gets started, I can really kind of have a little bit of time just to kind of relax a little bit. But up until that first whistle, I'm a nervous wreck.
For sure. I got to ask you a question, though. What do you think the Humboldt social, that's where the singlet was supposed to be auctioned off. So the Cyclone Regional Training Center now, they did that social. What do you think they made profit?
Did they have a dinner too at it, or was it just a social? Do you know?
I don't know all the details. I got told by somebody that was on the committee how much they made, and he was kind of the one that reached out to us to get that singlet, to get us involved. So
I would say
this is what he told me.
I'm going to guess through the auction. I mean, unless they had some private donors, I guess, or some big money guys, I'd say they'd raise. I'm going to go with $45,000.
Ooh, man, your money. It was 42.
Boom.
$42,000 for the regional training center. It's huge for guys like Kyvan, Earl Hall, and Ben Durbin, and Metcalf, who's obviously the coach. I mean, that's a huge amount of money to be raised at a social to keep those kind of guys around, to give them money to keep training, and Metcalf coaching.
Speaking of Metcalf and Night of Conflict, meshing these two, could we have, maybe somebody that has more NCAA knowledge here, could we have Metcalf come back to the Night of Conflict and coach against Mark Perry? Because he's not, is he on Iowa State staff?
He's a volunteer coach.
Assistant.
I think he's out.
So since he's on staff, he's done. Yeah. But could we have Mark Perry?
I mean, we've had Brett Metcalf, Matt McDonough, and Tony Ramos, who are athletes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's a difference between coach and athlete or what, but interesting. That we could get Eric Guerrero versus Mark Perry in the corners, because Guerrero now is a regional training center coach. I don't know if you saw that prior. I think that happened when you were overseas too.
Oklahoma, right?
Oklahoma State. No, now he's at Oklahoma.
Yeah. Switch sides of the bedlam. That's nuts.
But that'd be kind of fun too.
God. Now you're just putting ideas in our head.
I want Colot versus Ironside, but Colot can't do it because he's a coach, obviously.
Coach,
So yeah, if you got any ideas out there, maybe with some Iowa flavor, that'd be ideal. But if you got any ideas for coaches, hit us up. In the past, we've had Ramos versus McDonough versus Metcalf, and I want to get somebody outside of the Hawkeye to go up against a Hawkeye. So let's Gilman versus somebody. I mean, he's gonna be hopefully celebrating a world title for a couple months, but that'd be pretty cool to have him. But so yeah, Night of Conflict, that's coming up too. But I wanted to kind of weird transition, I guess, but kind of got off topic there. But all this transfers that's going on in college, right? I mean, it's been happening for a while, but now I think you hear more about it because they're having big names transfer. I mean, Joey McKenna, Stanford, Ohio State. That locks Ohio State into making a run for it. Soriano, we haven't heard, if he is coming back yet. I've been hearing some crazy rumblings about what could happen we won't get onto that, but which I kind of hope they do come out, but we'll find out if that actually does happen. But the transferring at high school level, Ross. I mean, let's just go back to our days in wrestling. I mean, just in sports in general. Do you remember lots of transferings happening or hearing about them? Or, I mean, I guess the social media it's kind of a different chain. I mean, there wasn't an IE Russell probably when we were high school. I know there wasn't, obviously. But did you? I can't even remember a lot of a big name of just transferring off the top of my head. My memory's horrible. But can you think of anybody?
Back in the day, it was Iowa City West for me. That was right when they got the Moores, Nick and Nate Moore. I can't remember where they were at before, but they came in. Ridge Kiley came from Eagle Grove, is that right?
Yep.
He came down from Eagle Grove. Gambrel went from City High to City West. The St. John's might have always been. They might have moved to the Iowa City West District, I guess, before, but I know. The St. John's are originally from the Belle Plaine area. I know that, or his dad was. So I don't know when they moved to out to Parnell where they're at now, but I remember back then it seemed like a lot of people were going to West, and they were the ones that were getting a lot of flack in my day.
Yeah, I think people are always talking about, well, why are there all these high school transfers now? Like, we're just seeing all these high school transfers mainly to Southeast Polk, right? The big names are, but this was going on. Ryland and Iowa City West. This has been going on for years that I know of. There's other teams too. Pete Bush has had some transfers come in, and what we don't know is, are these coaches having an influence on these kids? That's the biggest. You hear this, you're like, oh, the coaches are recruiting. Oh, the coaches are in the ears. And to an extent, I think with these coaches around these kids so much, and maybe there could be something said. I'm not going to say that ever has, but parents, I think, are the biggest influencers. You get a parent on one of these teams, and they get chirping in someone's ear, hey, we could use somebody at this weight class. Come to a team where we have amazing wrestlers up and down. We're being a hunt for a title. Why not? And I think the parents getting coerced from the other parents is the biggest problem that we do have in wrestling. I don't think it's really the coaches. So I don't blame kids for wanting to go to Southeast Polk. They're top 20 in the country, or top 30. I don't know what the heck they are now, but in multiple state titles. So I don't think I blame kids. I don't like kids doing it when they are juniors, seniors, heck, even sophomores. If they do it prior to them going, into high school, I'm okay with that. I can live with that. But when you're transferring in within your high school career, I think that's pretty. You got to have a pretty good reason. That's just my opinion. People always say, coach, dad got a new job, and I don't want to, not a specific person or anything like that, but that is a cop out. You if you got a job, that's not the reason, right? So what are your thoughts?
I think you're right. A lot of it's probably driven by the parents, and I think a lot of that comes through. I feel like this Team Iowa going to Fargo. I know they used to do it. They've been doing it forever, but in today's world, with Facebook, Twitter, all this social media, it's easier to keep in touch. Now you can text people, which is something, that was just kind of coming out when I was in high school to kind of age myself, which it's not even that old. I'm not even that old, but it's just all this being able to keep in contact with people, these parents meeting each other, talking, through Team Iowa. These kids go to clubs together now. I think, in Pennsylvania, I think they've talked about this a lot more, where kids are transferring schools in Pennsylvania. It's because they had all these clubs. Club wrestling's been huge in Pennsylvania, a lot longer than it has been in Iowa. And we're seeing this huge uptick in it here in the state. And it's not that, it shouldn't be surprising when you're seeing kids that they're wrestling with each other 3 nights a week. And they say, hey, instead of wrestling 3 nights, we should be wrestling every day, plus our club practices with those coaches. Why don't you come here? We're the better team. You're the only guy on your team. And I think that's just kind of snowball effect. Parents have a heavy say in it, but I think it's just this new development, and it's just how today's world is. And like you said, it's happening all the way up to the college level. These kids are so connected. You have Joey McKenna, who's apparently tight with Kyle Snyder because they were on junior world teams together best buds. Now Joey McKenna's going to Ohio State. He's from, he went to New Jersey. So how you tell me how that works.
Yeah, I mean it's those relationships. Those relationships are key. You see kids go into UNI because there's some probably Bettendorf kids up there that they probably mesh with a little bit better. So it's happening at all levels. It's happening at the youth club level. I mean daily. I mean people are jumping ship to youth clubs day in and day out, which I think is at the youth level. I mean you're trying to get your kids the best matchups you possibly can. I mean, my dad used to. I wrestled for the Bulldog Elite when it came to tournaments, but heck, he'd take me to Perry. We'd wrestle in Waterloo. We'd wrestle in Fort Dodge during the week for different practices. We might miss our Ogden practice, but we went around to all these different clubs. And the problem with that now is, if I'm at the Bulldog Elite, I go wrestle for a high altitude one practice, or I go for Siebold or something, or DC Elite, all these clubs are like claiming these kids for like their entire career. And I think that's just ridiculous at the club level, for coaches to be able to, at the end of their high school career. I had a 4-time state champ anyways. But just the transferring happens at all levels. And, I'm just not a fan. I mean, if my dad, I'm just thinking my personal reasons here. If I told my dad, like, hey, I didn't win a state title my junior year because I got second my junior year. If I said, hey, I want to transfer to Don Bosco, I want to be a part of Mac Ryder's team, or that would not have my junior year, but I want to be a part of number 1 Don Bosco team or something, he would have freaking laughed in my face, and just, maybe because he's a farmer, but he would have just told me to screw off, because that just, when you grow up in a small town, I feel like it's different because you're a part of everything. Homecoming, you're part of, it's your life, I guess. So transferring out of a small town, I think, is a bigger effect than maybe some of these bigger towns. But I can tell you that the Runyon and Pritchard transfer out of Indianola hit home down there pretty hard because they spent a lot of time with those kids. And I feel for everybody, at the Matt Tribe and Indianola. I mean, that just depletes their team. Waukees had it happen, depleted their team, depletes the morale. It's hard to bounce back from that sometimes. That's like losing Joey McKenna from your Stanford wrestling team. Shit, I mean, what's Stanford got? Joey McKenna was the face. So, I don't know what we do with it. I mean, the idea of having to sit out like so many practices before you can compete, I think is, in our sport, you just sit out cross country or you sit out football. If you maybe cross it over into a certain amount of days, then it would transition into the sport of wrestling, or you couldn't compete maybe the first semester. I don't know how you police it if you're the Iowa High School Athletic Association, but somehow at some point I think the conversation needs to be happened of how do we, I guess, protect. I
don't know. It's just like the NCAA, though. Like you said, you got to have a good. There are good reasons to transfer. And we don't need to go list specifics of things we know, but then like you said, it's going to be the Iowa High School Athletic Association is going to have to weigh each situation when you're saying, hey, I'm leaving this school because it's a toxic situation for my son, my daughter, and you kind of you're trading one bad scenario for another if you're giving the athletic association that much power where they got to try and figure something out and they rule it one way, and then they got a similar case and go the other way, all of a sudden people are just going to go nuts. So you got to kind of go with that blanket rule and just hope it deters enough of the masses. If we see more of it, I don't even know what to think if we're seeing a lot more of it. But
I mean, Jameis Wilson, he transferred out. There was rumors that he was going to transfer last year too, so he's gone. It'd be interesting to see. Is it West Liberty?
He's going to Center Point.
No, but West Liberty, isn't that a new school?
Oh, North Liberty.
North Liberty. No.
Yeah.
Is North Liberty? Isn't that's what they call the new high school?
It's Liberty Lightning. Yeah.
Is that the new high school? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know it's in North Liberty though. I knew it was kind of some Liberty. I don't know, but I've been hearing some rumblings of some kids wanting to transfer to there. So I'll be interested to see, how that all plays out in the future.
From what I was told about Iowa City West, because I think a lot of the kids from there are gonna be the ones that end up going to the North Liberty High School. It kind of sounds like, as far as this season's concerned, Iowa City West is bringing back a lot of guys from last year, and you only have to go to North Liberty. They force you into it if you're a freshman and sophomore. If you're a junior, senior, you can opt out and stay where you're at. And I think a lot of the City West kids, that's what they're going to do. The main contributors that are going to be in that West lineup. So I kind of already got some feelers out on that because I was really curious about it since it's right next to me. So I'm hoping to be plugged into that.
Same situation with Ankeny Centennial, Ankeny High here in Des Moines. Waukee's going to need probably a new high school here soon. So be interesting to see how where that line in the sand goes. And Waukee can't afford to split up that school as far as wrestling goes. So transfers, I guess wrapping my mind around it, I don't think coaches are the ones, Jason Christian isn't going out and recruiting these kids to come to Southeast Polk. He's just about putting the best product on the mat, and I think kids are attracted to it. What his assistant coaches do or what his parents do, he can't really control. But if I'm Jason Christensen, I'm not saying no to these kids. Hell no. So, and any coach in the state that says that they would turn down Lance Runyon, Pritchard, DeVos, Barnes, there's quite a few names. I don't think that'd be possible. I don't think they would. I mean, I guarantee Fort Dodge, very homegrown, got some good friends up there. I bet they would take a kid if they got a phone call. You can text me if you say likewise, different, but you know who you're talking. If you're listening to this, you know who I'm talking to. I guarantee they take these kids. But they can boast. Heck, they are homegrown. They are 100% homegrown. They got a ton of freaking homegrown hammers, and I can't. That's gonna be a fun team to see. They could have been a contender, but Southeast Polk getting those two kids really kind of shuts that down. Anything else on transfers?
No.
Transfers in college, high school.
They're inevitable. You just kind of got to learn to stomach them. That's not fun, but the real world's not fun. So sometimes even your hobbies they got a little bit of a sourness to them, and just take it in stride.
Well, let's we're about 35 minutes here, so I'll touch on Greco-Roman wrestling. Did you watch any of it?
So like I said, I just got back from Europe, and I don't know what it is, this jet lag. It's not like I'm just having trouble with my sleeping in general, not necessarily my schedule. I'm not feeling myself right now. So no, there's no way I'm going to be sacrificing my sleep. I'm trying to hold out for men's freestyle. Maybe I'll be feeling up to it. Sorry to Greco, sorry to women's, but I'm still trying to get adjusted back to the States here.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, that's the problem is you probably have some people that got up to watch this. The first day there was two takedowns from the Americans. And then today wasn't even better. It just wasn't any better. We had some more takedowns today, but I don't think anybody won two matches. So pretty disappointing finish. And what I really liked about Robbie Smith, he came out and he just cussed the whole time, but he was not happy about his performance and the performance of the Americans. And I think it lies into the rules. I think maybe this is the way we've been training is part to blame, but the rules are just a joke. I mean, they can really be gamed by how you make yourself look busy. And I love Greco. Like I've been saying, like when watching our cadets and our juniors, it is a beautiful thing when we see kids that are actually going out and making high amplitude throws and pushing the pace and making stuff happen, willing to take a risk. Well, at the senior level, you can't really take a risk. If you give up a 4, you're done. You're gonna get dirt. People will just be passive the whole time, and you're done. And so there's not really this whole risk reward you see at the cadet junior level. So it's boring. And also guys are more, their technique is better, so you can be more defensive at the senior level. So senior level wrestling is way more boring than like the cadet and junior level because you don't have those big throws. And that's the problem of why it's not growing. These cadets and juniors see these senior levels on the biggest stage, and they're like, this is freaking boring. Why would I want to do that? And they're switching to freestyle. And it's unfortunate because I love Greco, and I'm going to continue to try to push this train, but they've got to figure something out at the senior level, getting rid of this passivity because it's horrible. I can't wait for the women to get started tonight at 3 or 4 a.m. It's really early. But
well, you look at a guy like Alex Thompson, who, I mean, he's got all the potential in the world if he just worked Greco. And I think you've seen Matt Lindland. He's not too shy about what he wants. And he'll put it out there, and I think it's pretty obvious that Alex Thompson's a guy he's familiar with and would like to go the Greco route, but he knows it's just not possible. It's not feasible. He's not going to go to college on a Greco scholarship. So, but just Alex Thompson's potential in Greco is endless. I think didn't you say he wasn't even going to potentially do Greco at Fargo? He was kind of up in the air about it.
Well, after he won his state title this past year, talked to the coaches, and the coaches and tried to get him in the War at West Gym, and the coaches said, they've got this plan, or they've got this camp, or they've got a plan for Alex Thompson. Part of the reason why he possibly won't even be at the night of conflict. They've got a plan that they have him stuck on, and they were trying to push him not to do Greco this year, like only focus on freestyle. That's what he's doing at the UWWs, and look what he does. I mean, I think maybe I don't want to speak for the coaches or for Alex Thompson, but I think maybe them switching up the Greco and freestyle helped him his case of, hey, I've already done the freestyle, now I'm going to pop over to folks, to Greco. What's it going to hurt? And look what he did. He goes out and wins a stop sign, something he hasn't been able to do. So
he's just his feel, his everything about when you watch Alex Thompson wrestle Greco. He's just got that innate ability that if you fostered that, if you nurtured it, if you developed it the right way, maybe he could be a guy wrestling the first 2 days at the World Championships, wrestling Greco-Roman. He's the guy that has that potential, and it's kind of sad that we're probably going to see him go that freestyle route. And, he's got a lot of potential in freestyle, too. I guess I don't want to sound like I'm bagging on him. He was, third at the junior team trials in freestyle, but it's just maybe he could have been world team in junior Greco.
There's just more competition. There's more competition in the freestyle than there is Greco. He's got less top-level guys to go to compete against. So I'd love to see that, but I don't think we're going to see that either. Maybe he can make the switch down the road when, if he doesn't think he can do it in freestyle. That's a long ways away from now. But it sounds like Alex Thompson's not going to be in Night of Conflict, unfortunately. That would have been awesome to see him. So speaking of the Night of Conflict, we are going to be announcing. We've got 5 matchups that we have announced. We've got easily another 5, so we'll be announcing another one on Thursday. Big matchup probably there that you're going to be interested in seeing. And then we got a few that we're working on that will definitely bring the house down. Some of our best matches that we've ever had at the Night of Conflict. So just waiting for kids to sign on the dotted line and make their trip to Carver Hawkeye. And if you're interested in being a part of the event, helping us get set up, the biggest thing is getting set up for the Conflict at Carver the next day. Because that wrestling starts at 9 a.m. that next morning, and we've got to have really almost all that set up and the Night of Conflict set up. And we're going to be doing a new thing this year. We're going back to the center of the Carver Hawkeye Arena, and the plan is to bring in bleachers all the way around it, and then we're going to have two rows of VIP tickets as well. So those tickets are on sale right now for $100, and the GA tickets are going to go on sale hopefully here on Thursday as well on that matchup announcement. And then we're going to have floor seats as soon as we figure out how many floor seats we can fit on the floor. So hopefully we'll be hearing from Luke Eustace on that here soon. So be on the lookout for that. But Night of Conflict, it's here, Ross. It's here, and gear's done. We've got the gear picked out from Rudis.
Oh, it's going to be sick.
I want a hat. I mean, do I have to buy a VIP ticket to get a hat?
Oh, man. We're going to be fighting for hats and shirts.
We should at least get a hat.
And, hey, shout out to Brock Manning. I know you talked about it last week, but, man, I love it when Rudis shows up and they just set up shop and they got that it's like a big old mall sitting there on the side of Carver, and they're not going to have to tear down this year. I think, what was it, like dang near 2 a.m. when they were finished this year tearing down because they had to be out by the Saturday tournament. So they're going to be set up for the long haul. I'm excited to have them back. Like I said, we're pretty pumped up about the gear, and that's not even talking about what else they're going to be bringing. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah, so if you are interested in being a part of the Night of Conflict, we're looking for volunteers to help us set up on Friday. Shoot us an email at iawrestlecontact@gmail.com, or feel free to reach out to us on Twitter. Happy to help. We've already got a few people that are going to take the day off and be a part of the event. And then obviously to tear down that event is also very important for the Night of Conflict to get stuff set up for the Conflict the next day. We've got plenty of table workers the next day, but if you're interested in sticking around on Saturday, I'm sure that they won't say no to your help. And all the proceeds go to the Hawkeye Wrestling Club. I Wrestle just puts on the event, our branding, everything, and we just want to put on a big event for the wrestlers that we promote all year long. All year long on iWrestle.com and the rankings. We want to give them a platform to wrestle the best in the country and raise their rank so they can get recruited and be stars. That's what this is all about, being a star in our sport. Every other sport gets it except ours, and we're going to continue to bring you these one-off events. And we're at West Gym at Night of Conflict. Ross, you got anything else? I mean, have you guys been itching for anything here since you've been off the podcast for a while? I mean, call up Blood Round. Anybody?
Blood Round's a joke. Speaking of Blood Round, we need to make sure Tommy Baranowski coming back to officiate Night of Conflict. Have you talked to him about that?
I'm pretty sure he's locked and loaded, but
and then we need the old Kevin Clonchinator to be Matt's side calling out shoes.
Yep.
Who's wearing what shoes? So.
Yeah,
that's
originally I think what the plan. That's originally what I think the plan was, to have Clonch come down, but it sounds like Nomad and Bader will be coming down to call the match, so he might might not get the invite anymore. But
we'll let Clonch do interviews.
Yeah,
he'll be like our Shane Sparks, grabbing people off the mat.
Perfect. That's a job already done. Locked it in. Kevin Clonch, the Shane Sparks of iWrestle. All right, for Ross Bartachek, I'm Tony Hager. You've been listening to Potentially Dangerous, episode 96. Almost to 100. Hope you stick around for those. That's going to be fun. I don't know what the heck we're going to do for 100, but we hope you listen to it. Many more here this coming season. It's right around the corner. Holler at us at Hager Tony, at Ross Bartachek on Twitter. Until next time, guys.
Get low when the whistle go.